Hello, Eric. Oh, it's going well. Another fun day of racing up ahead of Trackalicious, as always.
Well, your microphone was on, but despite the fact that I'm almost certain that I pressed the unmute button, mine was not. So I'll repeat, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to Trackalicious. And I'm going to welcome myself back into the stream, as apparently I wasn't here. We are here for the West Coast Wednesday Championship. And we are at COTA with Kuja Terekov. And on for round 6, Kuja, at the extremely challenging, as most people say, COTA. How do you feel about this track?
I have a soft spot in my heart with COTA. I've been to a couple of events there, so it holds a special place in my heart. And I find it fun to drive around. It is very tricky in ACC with all the different track limits that they have set. It's going to be hard for these drivers to really push those limits in the qualifying session just to really maximize that time.
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of people complain about COTA, and there's multiple reasons why, in my opinion. One, lower grip. Okay, I get it. You know, it drives differently. And I think the second reason is that it has a lot of corners, so it's really difficult to get good at it. because you just have to learn so much, kind of like the Nürburgring. I don't think anyone associates it with that. They just get mad because it's difficult and long, and I'm not quite sure what it is. I like Coda. I think it's fun. A couple of corners which I absolutely despise because I'm not good at them, but just a matter of practice. But that being said, we have 3 minutes left in qualifying. Why don't we just roll right into things here and see what's going on the grid here. Neil Kerbel right now topping the charts with a 2:07.7. Alex Freeman, well, he was only 0.1015 seconds behind, but Anthony Kelly topping the charts as we speak with a 2:07.4, dominating. And I'm sure it might be track conditions improving as these folks go around the lovely Coda.
Yeah, it's a very challenging track, and adding another challenge element to the mix is the darkness that the drivers will have to face. Being 9 p.m. at night, you can see the floodlights on around at certain points of the track. And yeah, like you said earlier, it's a very lots of corners around Coda. 20 corners, a pretty long track of 3.5 miles. So it's a pretty difficult challenge for the drivers, and especially with how the corners are kind of feed into one another. So if you get one apex wrong, you're kind of screwing yourself over for the next few corners, especially at the very difficult sector snake in sector 1, the snake.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be pretty competitive here with all the drivers. Despite being a little smaller of a grid, the drivers are pretty close in times. Mills, Kerbel, Freeman, all 2/10 together behind Anthony Kelly, and I'm sure they're going to find some magic. Right now, though, Kelly, half a second advantage to his best lap is going to be incredible if he manages to put that together. I kind of want to hop on board and see how he's doing with a bit of wiggle as we go on board. So we have Austin in chat. Austin, how do you like this track in your namesake city? Couple more corners for Anthony Kelly as he goes through 19 and the final turn of 20 different corners. That's quite a few over the, the 13s and 16s that we usually see on most track. And Anthony Kelly improves his time, not as much as I thought he would, to be honest with you, but a 2:07.1 here at Coda.
Couple of drivers still yet to set their lap time, so we'll just have to wait and see where they end up with just 30 seconds left in the session. So this will be the last lap for Anthony Kelly to try and improve his lap time. Just about everybody out on track, so we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, just kind of a waiting game here as the number 6 goes off and is going to return to the garage, and that is going to be the qualifying session over for Justin Brackett, unfortunately. Alex Freeman coming up to the line to start another lap of qualifying.
I don't know if Freeman and Mills are aware, but this isn't quite the race, and there's tons of room on this circuit. You guys give each other some spacing, get a good lap down. Freeman gets himself up into 3rd place, 3/10 behind the premium lap of Kelly.
It might have just been a situation where one driver was finishing their lap and another was starting, so. But nonetheless, for Freeman, though, it looks like he cut a bit of the track and picked up a track limit violation, and that's going to invalidate his lap time. Kevin Yu in the Ferrari, though, still going around, still valid in the 99. Currently in 8th place, 1.387 seconds down on pole position, but still plenty of lap left to go to improve that lap time.
Kuja, if you invalidate a lap, are you returning to garage or are you completing the lap for some more practice?
I guess it just kind of depends on the situation. I guess in this case with 0 left on the clock, I probably would just return to garage and start setting up whatever I needed to for the race. But yeah, in situations like that you mentioned, though, it's not a bad idea to get around and perhaps practice your pit stop or pit lane entry if you haven't done that yet. So yeah.
You know, I'm a big proponent of get as much practice as you can. Now, that being said, I'm often way behind everybody else coming into qualifying being my first laps of the week. But I still, even if I had practice, I'd take an extra lap if I could get it, you know, just get as many corners locked down to the exact conditions as I can. Kevin Yu, 3/10 up, looking for that advantage, going to the line, and does finish off with a 2:08.3, his best.
Yeah, Jace Wright went around and absolutely lit up the timing charts. A 2:06.1, 9/10 clear of the driver in second place. So that was an absolutely blistering lap from Wright.
Goodness me, that is a great lap indeed. Well, it is time for us to check the grid out and see what is going on and who we have and where we have it. And if you'd like, Kuja, you can take this leisurely, slow grid walk because we only have 13 people on there as we start our random funky beat here on the grid at Coda.
Sure thing. In pole position, Jace Wright in the 2024 Iron Dames Lamborghini. Absolutely blistering last lap. He's set to be about a second clear of Anthony Kelly, who's lined up in the second place in the Fear Nothing Moto number 7 McLaren. Still having an incredible place out there. Just behind him was Joshua Worley in the Matco Please Sponsor Me Ford Mustang, the number 47 car. Alex Freeman, we saw how that little incident down the front straight, but nonetheless managed to qualify in 4th place in the number 14 AF Sport. The mighty Lexus of Josh Mills is going to be in 5th place today. Just behind him, Neil Kerbel in the Kerbel Race Program, the 395 Aston Martin, sporting the traditional dark green and neon green of the F1 Aston we've seen recently. Danny Campbell behind him in the McLaren number 720, representing kind of the similar F1 theme with the black and papaya colored McLaren. Kyle Hirsch in 8th place in the number 21 Impact Motorsport Porsche. Hopefully the committee packs for him in the race today.
That name.
Kevin Yu, who we were riding with for a little bit in qualifying, in 9th place on the grid today in the 99. Lots of 9s, so it's only fitting that finished 9th. Daniel Hirsch in the other Impact Motorsport car, the 48 Porsche. Going to be lined up behind the sister Porsche. Buggy Watt in the 410 Ferrari. The red and white livery, again, sporting pretty similar to what we saw in the F1 cars. Justin Brackett in the Budweiser Ford Mustang number 6. And last but not least, in 13th is Drew Burakovsky in the Fuchsia Competition Esports Lamborghini.
Oh no, I didn't download Drew's livery. I'm not sure if he uploaded it, but I was gonna say, while these two are Porsches, and one could more traditionally refer to them as sister Porsches, they are technically brother Porsches, as both Hirsches are in the Porsche, and yes, they are actually brothers.
Mr. Cars, brothers riding them, what more could you ask for?
And Kuju, we were talking about this off live. Gosh, ACC looks so good. I don't know, I just get super hyped, especially when it comes to these unique conditions. And I don't particularly have the greatest PC setup, the greatest GPU, but by golly, does this sim make things look amazing.
Yeah, it really does. It's especially fun to drive around in the cockpit and get views like this from outside too on the external cameras, getting views from the surrounding kind of, not necessarily, we'll call it scenery, the grandstands, the fans, the kind of the rolling hills, all the what's it called, the pit stop building kind of in the background there. So yeah, really fun to see all the details they actually put into the sim that we were able to view and enjoy.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Is Jace Wright's livery an in-game stock livery? It's pretty cool. Or
I don't think so. No. I think that was one of the custom ones that the Iron Dames team ran throughout the season in 2024.
I'm gonna give myself a livery walk here. Women driven by dreams. That's just so cool.
Yeah, the pink has a really nice pop to it.
Yeah. The Iron Dames weren't always in the Lambo, were they? They were in something else.
They've switched around a lot. I know they were in a Porsche at one point. I think they may have run a Mercedes, but I'm not too sure about that. And I think they switched it up again this year in the WEC.
Interesting. Long outlap here for these folks getting revved up to get going. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's ready for some action at COTA here. Circuit of the Americas. Just outside of Austin, Texas. And oh my goodness. Don't do this to me. Kuja, I think we're in for a rough night, and I have no idea why this happens, but... It was perfectly fine on Monday. No issues whatsoever. But for some reason, on some of the streams, it just decides that we're not going to be friendly.
It's just how technology goes some days. We praise it so much, but some days just one little thing can just tweak a little bit, and who knows? Sometimes it's just a matter of sometimes it's just as easy as restarting it and everything works perfectly well again.
Yeah. And I think it was, I don't know when it was, one of the streams, I reset my router, reset the game, reset everything, I think. But hopefully we won't have as many problems here tonight as we are getting lined up on the start-finish straight, getting ready to go racing with Jace Wright leading Anthony Kelly on the front row, going into the incredibly challenging T1 all the way up the hill of COTA. Red so far, getting geared up, revved up, ready to go here. And we are green. Everybody gets rolling fairly well. Jace Wright getting an exceptional start ahead of Anthony Kelly. Looks like the Mustang of Worley challenging Kelly on the inside, decides to back off. Kelly going really wide, actually, now having to go over the bumps on the outside of T1, but still managing to stay ahead, giving Wright a good lead there. Big margin through the first little section here. Looks like the Hirsch, one of the Hirsches of the Impact Motorsports, is already into some shenanigans. As we go back and have a look, yep, that was a contact between Hirsch and Mills, causing more situations behind. Mills now turned around. Hirsch, the rejoin, I think does a safe rejoin, hopefully, and decides to lots of slip on that Porsche.
Yeah, just two cars battling it out through the S's. It's really hard to go too wide through there as Worley runs just a little bit wide and hopefully won't lose too much momentum down this really long back straight. But it looks like Freeman is going to have a good rundown on the Mustang. But Mustang being the Mustang just kind of pulls away on the straights. It has a bunch of power. Just an absolute missile down the straights. And really good on the brakes too, almost getting to the bumper of Kelly in front.
Yeah, that Mustang's gonna have quite the advantage at the straights here, because there are quite a few really long straights here at COTA. So if Worley can manage to do decent around the corners, he's gonna have a pretty good shot of challenging Kelly. Now Kelly putting down some pretty good pace around these corners, already trying to catch up to Jace Wright. Jace must have made a mistake because it seemed like earlier on Jace had a much bigger lead than what it seems here. Worley trying to stay within a second of Jace so he gets as much draft as possible from behind that Lamborghini.
Yeah, it could just be a thing or two where the Lamborghini is stronger in one sector than the McLaren around the many different styles of corners there are around COTA. Turn one, a really tight kind of hairpin going up the hill, so the hill really helps in the braking, so you can brake a lot later than you would think that you could just down a normal straight. And then through these hills too, just a little bit of elevation change, but it's mostly just the change of direction that's super challenging, and getting apex completely dialed in as you sweep from left to right to left to right to left to right, pretty much non-stop for 10 corners.
Yeah, it's corners 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 finally sweeping through here as the grid goes through that, as the field goes through it, I should say, up into 11, the hairpin before the long straight. Super critical to get a fantastic exit out of this hairpin as Jace Wright does get a wiggle. Anthony Kelly looking okay. The Mustang over the big sausage curbs on the outside to discourage people taking too much advantage of the wide track here. Yeah, we do say we paid for it. We paid for every inch of this track and use as much of it as you can. But there are certain mechanisms that are put out there, like the outside of 12 here. Massive sausage curbs, sleeping policemen, as they call them sometimes, to try to limit the advantage some of these drivers try to take.
Yeah, it really does discourage the drivers from cutting the corners as it can like launch the car up. We saw that, I believe, at Zolder, where a car kind of hit one of those curbs pretty heavily and just got launched onto two wheels, but able to recover. So yeah, the drivers really wanted to avoid those big bumpy sleeping policemen, as you said. Yeah, just little battle here going on with Kyle Hirsch and Drew Burakovsky.
Yeah, Hirsch having made a mistake earlier on. I don't think Drew set a lap time. Now these two typically elbows out drivers. We joked about the Impact Motorsports Porsche getting into situation, but unfortunately that ended up being a reality. Kyle Hirsch tonight sporting some Trackalicious merch, actually, with the Go Fast Go Slow track pants. Actually super cool. I want a pair of those so badly myself. Grumpy Geriatric Gamer. Yeah, Worley is doing a lot tonight. So Worley is the team principal in our Syntho Drive Championship on Wednesdays, which he was partaking in earlier. And then he jumped over to the SRA races as Drew Burakovsky makes a mistake and goes off and gives the advantage to Kyle Hirsch. And then once he's done that, he jumps into the West Coast Wednesday Championship to finish off his night. What an absolute beast. Welcome, Nolan. Hope you're doing well. Lovely little dancing ducky. That is move done by Kyle Hirsch as we look on to the rest of the field. The gap building up now between Jace Wright and Anthony Kelly, just not simply able to put up the lap times he needs to, Anthony, to keep up with Jace Wright. We did see a blistering lap time from Jace, and he's continuing to do so at race pace.
Yeah, and of course there is that pit stop to consider later in the race. But currently on track, we have a battle here between Danny Campbell and Buggy Watt. Gonna go too wide into turn 12, and Danny Campbell just gets the sweep around the outside, done and dusted around Buggy Watt. Gonna try to catch up to the tail of Drew Burakovsky ahead. Has about 5 seconds to close in on his competitor ahead. See how far up the grid Danny Campbell can work up in the remaining 43 minutes of the race.
Yeah, Buggy Watt trying to stay alive and consistent. Now, Buggy, I know, is a newer driver trying to learn the ins and outs of sim racing and racing as a whole, and has been improving. We've seen improvements of Buggy over the last couple seasons, but as we all know, oh no, Drew Burakovsky seems to have made a mistake at some point. Where is he? Trying to find his Oh, seems like we may have missed it, unfortunately. Drew deciding that that is going to be it for the race today. Unfortunately, I think what must have happened is going on the outside of curve of the curbs on turn 20, the final corner of the race. Really challenging if you go wide, and it's going to really unsettle the car. And unfortunately, an unsettled car on the outside might mean a whip to the inside, which is where the pit wall is. And I would guess, not being able to get back into the replay, that's exactly what happened to Drew Barakovsky, as Jace Wright sets the fastest lap of the race at a 2:06.592 and continues to increase his gap to Anthony Kelly.
Yeah, really good pace from Jace Wright. That gap up now to about 2.5 seconds, 2.33 as they cross the timing towers. And so, yeah, it will be, like we said, yeah, this, before that battle tuned in, it'll be interesting to see how the pit stops play out, because of course they do have that 25-second mandatory refueling time. So we'll just have to wait and see if some drivers elect to add an extra 5 seconds to their stop to take on new tires as well.
And we have a fun fact redeemed in chat from Nolan Siegel. Nolan, I'm gonna give you a couple. Fun fact number 1, COTA has a dramatic elevation change of 131 feet from its highest to lowest points. And I'm gonna add to that because I'm curious. So 131 feet is 13 floors high. That's actually kind of crazy. 13 stories of elevation between its highest and lowest point. That's a lot.
That is a lot, and it's a really dramatic climb into turn 1 also. We'll have to wait until we get a good camera angle of it, but we could have just picked it up just a little bit towards the end of the lap, and you can almost, it's almost a blind apex from where you start with this, the front straight, or the main straight, however you want to call it. Yeah, you almost start completely flat, and it rises in elevation so much towards the end and into the braking zone that yeah, it's a really fun view to see standing from one end of the track. So hopefully the camera angles will give us a good view of that.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're not the only one who's been to COTA. Kyle, our one of our regular iRacing drivers, says his legs hurt just thinking about the elevation walking around there for 3 days. That's super interesting. I've actually been to COTA myself, but not for a race. We just so happened to be in Austin for a bachelor party and did go to the go-kart track, which was super fun. Super complex, and there were a couple of wet patches too because it had some sudden showers, so really interesting to race on. Nolan Siegel saying that waiting every day for the Wicked for Good trailer. Now, I apologize about my absolute ignorance. I have no idea what Wicked for Good is. If it's a movie or a game or a sim or a what is it? So maybe you could educate me, Nolan. Kerbal was getting pretty close to Freeman up ahead there, but just happened to make a mistake. Not really a mistake, but got quite a bit close to Freeman. Decided to back out or take a wide stance there, a wide exit, just to make sure that he doesn't hit him and cause an incident for no reason. So Kerbal's going to continue to try to catch up here as he has 39 minutes remaining in the race, a pit stop, and then to see what happens towards the end. Logan, what are you doing? Why are you not here? Fastest lap currently standing is a 2:06.342.
And the qualifying lap, I believe, was just a couple of tenths up on that. I think it was like a 2:06.1.
Had to work late. Nolan, not Nolan, Logan, don't you know what your priorities should be? We tell people all the time, sim racing or bust. That's it. Who, like, what is this? Oh, you gotta like make money to live? I don't think so. Sim racing is life.
Next time, maybe we can reach out to an admin and we can write you a note.
Yeah. A hall pass.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Logan, let me know. You should tell your work. Eric from Trackalicious said I could go home. I'll sign it for you. That's hilarious. Josh Worley up on his time. Looks like he's putting down some good lap times, but just again, not quite enough to catch up to Anthony Kelly, who is almost a second ahead.
Yeah, good pace though from these two, being able to stay pretty close to each other still on track, with about 20 minutes of the race already behind us. Jace Wright, 3.2 second advantage as these two climb up the big elevation gain at turn 1. And then it sort of just kind of flattens out, so there's not really a lot of camber that helps you get around the corner, so it's really slick trying to put the power down and then immediately shooting back down the hill around turn 2. And then the 3 fast sweepers of 3 and 4 pretty much flat out through that first part up until turn 5, where you need a dabble of brake and then a bit of turn in as these guys negotiate that long turn 6 and into a quick turn left at turn 7 before going up another little crest, a long sweeper of turn 8, and then followed by a pretty similar fast left kink. And you don't want to run too wide here as track limits do come into play. And then this is a pretty decent overtaking opportunity, a heavy braking zone before the back straight. Also a good place to start lining up a move to be able to get that move done after the back straight into turn 12.
I just thought of an idea. I wonder if I can do this. No, it's not letting me. I want to redeem something. Let me redeem something. Oh, I can. Oh, I can. Oh, this is exciting. I am going to redeem a request a fun fact from chat. You guys get me a fun fact. Haha, Uno reverse card at you. Come on, Nolan, let's see what you got. Fun fact for fun fact.
And then yeah, Logan's saying S1 and S3 are rough in the Mustang, just constantly fighting under an oversteer, never just normal steer. That's not exactly what you want to hear when you're trying to race and go fast. You always kind of want to be in control of the car and be able to control the under and the oversteer. So it's really difficult to manage if you have both trying to go as fast as possible. Here you can see that really good shot of the elevation change into turn 1, where you can't really even see the top of the track.
That's crazy. I mean, you know, oftentimes, I mean, the camera doesn't really show the height, but you do get a sense of it a little bit. And what we could do maybe is, well, why don't we go on board, because you know Worley is doing a pretty good job of chasing down Kelly. So I want to go and see if the helmet cam's terrible, so why don't we just try this. There we go. A bit static. I like doing the helmet cam a little more, but it just takes up too much of the dash as these guys go through the portion, and you do see quite a bit of elevation change. Oh.
Yeah, it's really prominent in sector 1.
KPM Kyle saying, fun fact, don't buy F1 merch at Coda. It's $120 for a hat. That is a lot for a hat. You know where you could buy pretty reasonably priced hats? I don't know if you see this over here. Let's see if this works. There we go. The Trackalicious store. What? We have merch. We have hats. $26 for a hat, and that's shipping included. And that's a flat brim hat. $22 for a beanie. And actually the other hats, the Under Armour one that I have is $35. Significantly less than the F1 hats, and I mean quite a bit more prestige. You know, Trackalicious carries the heft of the name of history, heritage, culture of racing. Where else could you get that?
Yeah, and like millions of people have Ferrari hats, but not very many people have Trackalicious hats.
Yeah.
So you'll be in a very exclusive club.
Unique selling point. I love that, Kuja, turning a negative to a positive.
It's like how we have those all those collector cars. It's like, oh, car number 1 of 500. You could put a little Sharpie note on some of them. I'm just kidding.
No, you know, interestingly enough, I do think that there is something to be said about that. Typically, what I kind of see is cars that sometimes have an odd color that not a lot of people buy. Down the road, the rarity ends up being, you know, the advantage, and sometimes those cars go for a lot higher a price than just a regular, you know, like the silver, black, or gray, or whatever the popular color that everybody buys this. We do have a yellow flag. Jace Wright, something's happened to Jace.
Now let's take a look here. This is going through those fast S's just before getting into a bit of the slower sections. We'll see if he just maybe hops over one of the curbs and it spins him out over the top of the hill, around to turn 8 and through turn 9. Yeah, just that little dip into the curb. Oh, unfortunately, yeah, crunches the front into the wall.
Anthony Kelly through to P1. My goodness. 20 minutes into the race, and now we have a race, and an exciting one at that. Worley in the pits trying to gain an advantage. Mills definitely someone to look at as well, because Mills pitted early and had an incident, but isn't a slouch. Definitely going to be one to watch. Now Jace Wright coming in with damage will have to pit and repair, as Kyle confirms, can't park there, mate.
Yeah, not an ideal parking spot for the Lamborghini. Fortunately, didn't look like he was carrying as much speed as possible, holding the brakes before going into the wall, and he's not going into the pits on this lap, so maybe he's just going to try and ride it out and see how bad that damage really is before confirming if he wants to repair it or not, because that is going to cost a fair bit of time during the pit stop, and he doesn't want to lose any sort of track advantage. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Josh Worley ends up coming out. He was right behind Anthony Kelly before he pitted, so maybe a strategic move from him to get out of the dirty air of the McLaren and just kind of ride his own race after stopping.
Yeah, it's probably because he had pace, right? So he was catching up to Kelly and then losing it and catching up and losing it. So I think you're right in that it might have been a disadvantage of the Mustang to be in the dirty air around the corners, whereas he had that huge advantage on the straights, and just clean air might be the solution for him, having the pit stop to play with. Worley does take an early one just after Mills. The only 2 cars having pitted, with the halfway point of the race being the 25-minute mark. Now, for those that don't know, there's a minimum 25-second requirement at the pit stop, for which you can check a tire change, which gives you an extra 5 seconds of pit. I'm not quite sure whether COTA is one of those places where you do or don't take tires. Quite a few demanding corners for tires. The first sector, you know, a lot of high speed, or actually really it's the second sector where a lot of the high speed corners, that's the C word I was looking for. Corners come into play, and that last sector with the quadruple pull triple apex right-hander of turn 18, 17 and 18 that really comes into play. So I don't know, might be the right answer.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see too, because of course these tires during endurance stints can take the toll of a whole 60 to 70 minute stint. So it's not a matter of whether the tires can survive the stint. They certainly can. It's just a matter of whether it'll be faster on fresher tires and whether you can overcome those 5 seconds with those fresh tire advantage.
Yeah, and as I'm looking at the pitted situation here, unfortunately it does look like Josh Mills is quite a bit farther behind than Josh Worley, considering that he had quite a bit of damage, and I'm sure that was repaired because it does show in the pit stop time of an extra 15 seconds. So Mills, disadvantage for this race, unfortunately, with the early incident that happened. But really the action, the eyes are going to be on Anthony Kelly, Jace Wright, and Josh Worley, with Neil Kerbel coming through only 4.1 seconds behind. And I will say that last lap was a 2:08 flat for Jace Wright, and I'm surprised he hasn't pitted yet.
Yeah, with it being about 1.5 seconds slower than his usual race pace. But again, maybe he's just waiting to kind of, maybe he just only has 1 or 2 laps of fuel left and kind of waiting to ride those out. But yeah, kind of an interesting call. Maybe the damage isn't as bad as we think it is, so obviously from the lap time it could seem a little bit detrimental, but if he's happy with how it's as he takes the curb really heavily, starts bouncing the back of that Lamborghini through turn 12.
Jace Wright just not at one with this Lamborghini as the hood flaps and tells a story. Do we dare puppet a Lamborghini today? We tried that last time. Every time the hood moves, I feel like I need to speak as if the car was speaking. But maybe if he gets a bit more damage, we could venture into that.
Yeah, not looking like it's bouncing too much. So fortunately for him, yeah, hard to speculate how much damage that really is. This lap won't be the fastest. Kelly and Freeman dive into the pits. Neil Kerbel was able to get in front of Alex Freeman. We saw them battling for a little bit. But yeah, now Neil Kerbel has the track advantage before the McLaren of Freeman went into the pits. Here we see Kelly stopping in his pit spot, hopefully in the correct location so the pit crew doesn't have to move him and cost him a little bit more time.
I want to go to the end of the pits here because it is going to be a battle to see who comes through to get that position. So Kelly's going to be coming through here shortly. It's really the 410 of, no, the 47 of Worley that we're going to be looking at, as Kelly still in the pits, I believe is rolling now. Yeah, rolling. Where is
and
Worley?
The 47 is just behind the 410, entering the back straight now. So there's those 2 cars approaching on the left. Worley gonna try to move down the inside of Buggy Watt. Buggy not really leaving him a lot of space, but gets the move done and is gonna get ahead of Anthony Kelly after the pit stops.
That is incredible. That is game, set, not match just yet, but incredible move by Worley to have made that earlier pit and getting himself in front of Anthony Kelly. Now here's the interesting situation. One of the things that I think is going to be a challenge for Kelly is Buggy Watt. Watt is in position but without a pit, and I've seen Buggy battle these positions quite hard. So Kelly's gonna have to be very careful to make his move around Buggy. Looking on the inside, making his intent known, but Buggy not giving the position away. Kelly, big wiggle onto this back straight. Definitely not what you want to do over here, Huja.
No, not the best way to line up a move down the back straight. That'll cost him precious time behind Buggy Watt. He's going to pick up a bit of a slipstream. We'll see if he sends it down the inside of turn 12. Oh, and deciding to switch, in fact, to the outside. We'll see if he can sweep around, but Buggy Watt really good on the brakes in the Ferrari and able to keep his position on track as Jace Wright goes into the pits. We saw that damaged car a little bit earlier. We'll have to just wait and see where he comes out relative to Anthony Kelly, who's still desperately trying to get by Buggy Watt. These guys are on a bit different strategies. Kelly getting a pretty good exit out of that corner, but just not able to get alongside Buggy Watt. Buggy Watt, though, struggling a little bit with the grip, and this might give the position to Kelly, as these guys are going to continue to battle side by side through turn 19. And now that move might be done, but Buggy Watt is going to send it down the inside.
Giving Alex Freeman a lot of advantage as Alex now ducks right behind Anthony Kelly. As we said earlier, goodness, this is going to be a huge challenge as Buggy Watt sends it into the apex. Kelly having to be super careful. Alex Freeman takes advantage of the situation, albeit with some elbows out. Now the two McLarens battling behind Buggy Watt, both trying to find the spot for them to overtake. Every corner they battle behind Buggy is another corner that is lost out to Josh Worley. Worley, the absolute king of strategy here today, winning out over this pack and doing a fantastic job continuing to build gap between Buggy Watt and the rest. Josh Worley, number one of the pitters, as these three continue to battle. Buggy not giving the position away. He's not really in this fight, but he's fighting for every corner for sure. And these guys are going to have to be really careful to make sure that they don't get into a situation as Alex Freeman spins. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, just hopped onto the curb a little bit, lost the traction on the rear and goes spinning out into the wall. Hopefully not picking up too much damage like we saw the Lamborghini do. Pretty similar incident involved there. But yeah, speaking of Jace Wright, actually, he was able to hop in front of Kelly, who was stuck behind Watt for that outlap. And Jace Wright doesn't look like that he repaired any damage on the car. He's about 3 seconds back of Josh Worley, so we'll have to wait and see how his pace looks after his pit stop.
Yeah, the pit stop's looking fairly close. I don't think Jace Wright took any repairs. It was 32.6 and 32.2 for Worley and Wright respectively. And goodness, this is going to be an interesting race, considering that Jace did have the pace advantage, but with the damage, they're probably fairly similar as we continue to look and see what pace they are putting. 206.4 for Wright, 207.4 for Worley in the last lap. This is incredible.
Yeah, and Kelly in the background was just able to get by Buggy Watt, but unfortunately for him, he's going to lose the position also to Neil Kerbel, who just came out of the pits in the Aston Martin, the 395, just a little bit ahead of the 7, so getting stuck behind that 410 Ferrari for Anthony Kelly really cost him a lot of time.
Looks like we had a yellow flag for Brackett, but I'm not quite sure where. Brackett looking okay. So Worley, the other thing about Freeman is that damage comes after the pits, so he doesn't quite have the opportunity to repair without a huge pit penalty. And as we have building action here with 20 minutes left, we're joined by Fish. Hey Fish, how's it going? Cronotis, what are you doing? How are you not in this race? How are you not in all the races? Chrono, I think historically the highest attending Trackalicious driver in history. I think that's pretty fair to say, isn't it, Chrono? Oh no, he's got a bum and a foot, and I'm not sure how they relate. Yeah, but this is getting quite exciting. Continuing to look at Jace Wright. Jace Wright has Kerbel. Well, Kerbel, like you said, has jumped Kelly. So Kelly, my goodness, that is really the poorest strategy choice that we've seen so far. Jumping down from P2 or 3 down to 5th place now. That is a kick in the bum for sure.
Yeah, you could just quickly see on the bottom right hand of his last lap time was a 2:10 compared to, we'll see what this one is, a 2:07.4. So losing about 3 seconds a lap behind Buggy Watt trying to battle for position. And that really cost him in the end. And it was really nothing wrong with the strategy call. I think it was just really unfortunate for him to come out in the position that he was behind Buggy Watt.
Yeah, so I'm trying to do some calculations here, Kuja. We have 18 minutes left, about 2-minute lap times. Divided that by 2, 9 laps And it looks like Jace has about a half a second advantage over Worley. Half times 9 is 4.5 seconds, and he's only 3 seconds behind. That means that towards probably with 3 laps to go, White is going to be right behind Worley and going to be battling for the win.
Yeah, those are really impressive lap times considering the little bit of damage he picked up on the front end of that Lamborghini. So it'll be interesting to see if Worley can manage his pace out in front and ride mistake-free for the remaining 17 minutes of the race.
Jace Wright's lights flashing in damage and regret. Whoa. One Hirsch is trouble. 2 Hirsches is exponentially more trouble as the Hirsches continue to find each other on track. Daniel Hirsch ahead. Kyle Hirsch may be looking at a kiss of the rear quarter, but not quite enough to make that Porsche whip around, as that rear engine does seem to take very little encouragement to do so. These 2 drivers in constant battle through many leagues and many races. The Hirsches are indeed related, Fish. They are brothers, one in California and one in Colorado, I believe. So the distance separates them geographically, but on track, right behind each other, nose to tail, trying to determine who the better brother is.
Yeah, fun battles always between these 2 guys, and I'm sure they always have a laugh about it too when they're chatting after the race too. But yeah, good to see the fun battles between brothers continue through the sim world also.
Yeah, Fish has 2 kids, 2 boys, and hoping that he sees them in battle for sure on track. That would be awesome. I hope one day that, I hope my kids and your kids all get to be in battle, and actually all the Hirsch's kids as well, because they've got a bunch of kids too. It'd be cool if we have a Gen 2 Trackalicious here, where all of our kids kind of get together and start continue on the tradition. It'd be super cool. I look forward to that day for sure.
Yeah, soon enough. I know you guys. Trackalicious hosts those IRL swap events with family members. So sooner than later, the kids will be joining those.
Yeah, we should do a kids only race. Children of all Trackalicians only. That'd be hilarious. Actually, Kusha, one of my kids has raced in one of those swaps.
Oh, heck yeah. That's awesome.
Admittedly, she was on my lap and just controlling the steering wheel. So, yeah. Oh,
that's a great introduction.
Russ saying that we're going to have a geriatric versus kids league. That'd be awesome. That'd be so cool. Be a lot of fun. We have like 2 big teams, right? OGs versus the new age. As Kyle sends it into the corner, trying to take advantage of Daniel's wide line here. Both racing through to the final corner. Kyle having the inside line. Daniel pretending like he doesn't exist, as he's probably done many a time in their lives. But Kyle getting the advantage, and now is up into P6. Nice. Good job, Kyle.
That was a fantastic battle between the 2. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead. Another battle building up here between Anthony Kelly and Neil Kerbel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was a fun battle between those 2. We'll see if these guys can provide that same sort of entertainment going side by side through the final 2 corners of the track, with these guys just finishing up the S's and about to go into the back straight. This will give us a good opportunity to see what sort of speed advantage either the Aston or the McLaren has. We saw a little bit earlier in the race, Neil Kerbel was battling with Alex Freeman, and not too much separating those guys on the straight. So we'll have to just wait and see as they get to the braking zone if the McLaren can close that gap any at all. It doesn't look like it at all, though.
Yeah, I'm not sure. The Aston is pretty strong in the straights, I believe. I think they're slow off the line, and gearing on the Aston's really weird. And the other thing is, Neil doesn't drive the Aston, so I'm very curious as to why he's in one right now. Probably just experimenting. Lately, I've seen Neil predominantly driving the Ferrari and the Mustang, so interesting to see him experimenting with different cars. And another interesting thing, reading that Fish has built a kid-size sim rig for his 6-year-old. It's a Nintendo Switch Pro wheel and a car seat built into a wooden platform. Fish, that is super cool. I, myself, not having much time, am looking to take advantage of our next level racing affiliate that we have and the promo code. And I'm going to post that in here while we finally we just got it today, so I will be automating this. But I'm gonna post this, and then I'm gonna also post a link of the rig I'm thinking about getting my kids, which I think is gonna be super fun. So there's our next level racing affiliate and the coupon code for getting your 5% discount on next level racing. But there is a kids rig that they have that is super cool, very reasonably priced actually. So I'm super excited. I do have extra steering wheel and pedals for the kids, and actually it's not really intended for the kids. It's really intended for anybody who wants to try sim racing around the Metro Detroit area. But the GT Light Junior is a super fun little sim rig that's built for kids, and it looks like it has a lot of adjustment, which I'm excited about, to give my kids the ability to kind of sit in the right spot, as I do have some of multiple heights. So this is going to be a perfect solution for what I'm looking for.
Yeah, it's always good to get involved at a young age. I was kind of fortunate too. My dad had one really pretty old like Logitech force feedback steering wheel, and I would always attach that to the desk and play Need for Speed any chance I had, and that kind of developed into this sort of passion and love for sim racing that's here today.
That's pretty awesome. My dad could care less about cars. Couldn't care less about cars. I know Chrono's listening, so he would have corrected me, but I corrected myself.
Yeah, big car guy my dad is, so this is always fun to get involved with working on cars, just driving them as soon as possible. But yeah, it's just very hard to do until you can get your permit.
Yeah, I mean, depends where you're driving. Anthony Kelly right behind Neil Kerbel now in the closing kind of final stint of this race. Not the closing minutes per se. We do have 10 minutes left. Anthony Kelly looking on the outside. Kerbel taking a big bump on the inside. Kelly not quite having the advantage to take. And look at this. While these two are battling, Jace Wright is now within half a second of Josh Worley. And that is going to be a huge challenge for Josh Worley to defend for another 10 minutes. Presumably, that's going to be about 5 laps remaining. Jace Wright looking very threatening as his lights continuing to flicker. Now Jace is going to have to be careful. I'm not sure how comfortable he's gotten with the new setup that he's introduced to his Lamborghini, having gone wall hugging earlier. But that is going to be a challenge for Worley. That being said, Worley does have the massive straight line advantage, as you can see him building up a gap, a car or two's gap on the straight, and trying to keep that through the corners. This is going to be definitely an interesting battle to watch, as Jace just like immediately closes that gap up as soon as they get into the corners.
Yeah, we saw Logan mentioned in the chat earlier that the Mustang not particularly strong through the first and final sector as it runs a little bit wide through turn 16, and that's going to give Jace Wright the position and the lead of the race. Is he going to be able to keep it though through these sweepers? The Mustang looking pretty aggressively in the back, but not much it can do about that, and that is the move done for now for Jace Wright. But Worley sticking close to the tail of the Lambo as best as he can, as the Lambo gets a little bit bumpy on the inside curbing, and that might give the straight line speed advantage to the Ford as they go into the heavy braking zone of turn 1.
Oh, I'm surprised he didn't send it in on that corner there. I thought he had the speed advantage, but I think Jace is just quite a bit stronger on the brakes as he pulls away. As soon as they get out of the corner, that exit speed of the Lambo is just supreme, it seems like. And Whirly already falling behind. That is probably positioned done and dusted, unless Jace makes another mistake. Now with that Lambo being damaged, that's quite the possibility. Looks like Jace is not quite in tune and in harmonious with the Lambo tonight here at COTA, as there are 20 corners to remember, 20 corners to familiarize yourself with, and especially now that your car is behaving differently with some damage in hand. And as we say, he goes wide on the most critical corner on the entire track, losing out tons of speed through the long back straight, but just doesn't look like it's enough. He does go defensive against Whirly. Whirly looks on the outside, but Jace does have that position still secured. This is going to be interesting. Every time I say it's a given, something happens and Whirly's right back in it. And if I were in Whirly's position, I would fight for every millimeter of track possible, because this isn't quite over yet with 6 minutes and 45 seconds left to go.
Yeah, they seem pretty well matched on pace throughout the entirety of the lap, but there's definitely certain sections where we see one car being stronger than the other. Certainly the Mustang down the straights has a huge advantage over the Lamborghini, but through the corners, especially on corner exits, we saw at turn 1, the Lambo was just able to run away from the Ford. But as you mentioned earlier, also with dealing with the damage, he is unfamiliar with how the car handles, and perhaps that's why we're seeing him take a few odd lines and hitting a few curbs that you wouldn't normally hit, and unsettling the car even more. And that's allowing Whirly to stay right on the bumper of the Lamborghini through certain parts of the track. It's just a matter of if he can get close enough where it matters and line up a move down the back straight where the Mustang has a really strong pace advantage.
If I were Whirly, I would be trying to fill Jace's mirrors as much as I possibly could with as much of American muscle as I possibly could, and threaten that Italian stallion to any single mistake that is possible. Now, oh, okay, I thought there might have been an issue where these front runners were gonna have to battle with Buggy Watt there, but looks like Watt does duck out of the way and does a good job in letting the leaders pass through, and that is gonna be not something that's in favor of Whirly's position, but Jace is gonna be super happy about that.
Yeah, good for Buggy not to defend when he's under a blue flag situation. Of course, that heavy defending earlier cost Kelly a little bit, but that was for position, so that was a completely fair battle to engage in from Buggy Watt. Oh, and there's a drive-through penalty, the first one we see of the night for Justin Brackett in 9th place in the number 6 Ford. We mentioned it a little bit earlier during qualifying, how the track limits really come into play at kind of odd moments. It's a track that's a very how do we say it, very strict on track limits around COTA. So there we see the first instance of one of the drivers picking up a drive-through.
I feel like it's not only strict, but it feels undefined. Like you don't quite know where the limits are, and you're trying to push and take advantage. And in some places it makes sense, in some places you're like, I could swear I didn't get a limit, but it still gives you one. And for those that don't know, there are certain scenarios in which the sim calculates a limit, and if it decides that you're getting an advantage on track, an advantage on lap time, it gives you a limit warning. And Freeman doubling up, another drive-through penalty for track limits. It's 3 strikes, and on the 4th one you get a drive-through. And there you go, Brackett ducking in for their penalty, and Alex Freeman having to do that in the next lap with only 3 minutes and 20 seconds. So that's effectively 2 more laps to go, I think. And Jace Wright still massively threatened by Josh Worley.
Yeah, Josh Worley not giving up any distance to Jace Wright ahead. Jace Wright taking a really defensive line down the back straight, trying to break up the slipstream as much as he can and not give the Ford any sort of pace as they run up to the heavy braking zone at turn 12. And Jace Wright again shaping up a pretty defensive position. And Worley not quite wide enough to run under the sausages, but ran just a touch wide and not able to take any sort of advantage again off of the Lamborghini. But the Lamborghini dealing with that damage is kind of wiggling around all over the place. A little bit of understeer, a little bit of oversteer. There it's all going a little bit wide onto the sausages, but not picking up any sort of pace loss as the gap to Worley is about the same as it was before. So Jace Wright just has about, let's see how it should be, about 1 lap. Should be less than 2:06 as he crosses the line. Yep. So this will be the final lap of the race once they cross the line. So here we go. 1 lap to go to see if Jace Wright can hold on to P1 or if Josh Worley can do anything about it and take that top spot.
Yeah, the other thing that we kind of haven't talked about a lot is fatigue. Worley has had multiple things to do today. He was a team principal for the Honda team in Syntho Drive, having to make strategic decisions to see if he could make his team perform in the Syntho Drive AI AC Championship. Then jumped over to SRA to run a championship race there, and then came here to finish off the night at Trackalicious here at Circuit of the Americas. So that's going to be exhausting for Worley, jumping here and there and having to figure out that Mustang. Gets a bit of a gap between him and Jace Wright, and is going to want to take as much of an advantage as possible onto this back straight. But Jace seems to have gotten his head around at least enough of this Lamborghini to try to keep himself ahead.
Yeah, that gap is pretty substantial for the Ford to be able to close up just in the back straight alone. So it's going to take a pretty special final sector from Josh Worley to try and get a move done to take the lead of the race. Neil Kerbel was battling with Kelly behind, but he's able to pull out a pretty good advantage now. To hold on to that 3rd spot for now, as these guys just have a few more corners to go.
Yeah, Jace is gonna look to try and be a little cautious. I would drive under the limit to make sure that 18, 19, and 20 don't get the better of me. And the final corner for Jace Wright, having put down the phenomenal pole position in qualifying, and does secure P1 for Jace Wright and a P2 for Josh Worley. And that's quite a performance for both of them. And with that damage coming in and taking that victory, Neil Kerbel and Anthony Kelly coming in 3rd and 4th respectively, having you taking that 5th spot. Kyle Hirsch battering brother Daniel Hirsch as he rounds turn 20 onto the final straight. Daniel securing P7 with the drive-through penalties quite some ways behind. Alex Freeman coming in, not too much threat around. It looks like we have a situation. We have a situation. Battle for position still between Justin Brackett and Danny Campbell. Brackett looking on the outside. Goes in for a move. Tons of room there. As they continue to go through a challenging portion of the track. Still giving each other room. And oh! That is unfortunate. I think that's somewhere between 12 and 13 or 14 and 15.
Yeah, just running onto the curb on the exit of 13 and not being able to control the oversteer.
And this isn't done yet.
It's
not done yet. Bracket gets it on the line. My goodness, Kuja, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I did not see that coming. And my goodness, Campbell goes wide and Bracket sneaks in for the P10 position.
Yeah, that was a fantastic battle on the last lap of the race. Almost out of nowhere. We didn't really see that battle throughout the race, but yeah, picked up right on the last lap, and just good battles overall. Even for the lead too, towards the end there, it got really close for the top spot and for third also. Yeah, good battles through the relatively small field today, but still very exciting racing.
That was fun. I think we slightly called it at the start. Thought that there was going to be pretty good pace between the drivers, and hopefully we'll see Neil Kerbel, hopefully we'll see Jace Wright, and we'll see Josh Worley in the green room here shortly. Let me try to call them up and see if we could get them in here as I try to find the channel. But yeah, super exciting end to the race with Jace making the mistake midway through, and then the battle between Bracket and whoever else it was at the end there. All right, we've sent our note out. You know what? I'm just going to drag them. Gonna forewarn them. Not you, Dan. Get out of here. Hello. Well, gentlemen, you guys had quite the race. Let's start with you, Neil. Neil, where did you qualify?
He's not here. He's feeding his cat.
Oh, we'll get back to Neil. We'll give him some time to pop in here himself, since he's an admin. He could do that. Well, okay, Josh. There were hopes. There was a light at the end of the tunnel in the middle of the race. Talk to us about what happened there. Actually, I don't think you saw it happen. You had an excellent strategy going into the pits early. What were your thoughts there?
So I'm gonna be honest, this whole race was a wing it kind of thing. I forgot to put more fuel in the car. That's why I pit when I did. And then I got all 3 of my track cuts in the first 5 laps of the race. So I was just hoping.
Yeah, not much you can do with 3 track cuts trying to push for another 45 or another 40 minutes of the race.
Yeah, I'm just glad I made it to the end without a drive-through, to be honest.
That's pretty impressive, if I may say so. Wow. That's a tough position to be in. And you know what? For those of you who don't know, when you get the 3 track cuts, getting a drive-through is incredible. Like, essentially the end to your race for the most part. And you really have to drive under the limit and ensure that you don't get that track cut. So really, for you to have gone through the remainder of the race with 3 track cuts is pretty impressive. And the pace difference makes quite a bit of sense now with Jace being able to catch up to you so quickly. So Jace, why don't you tell us a little bit about your adventures and your wall hugging that you did today?
So after qualifying, I was in a chat with one of my friends, and he was like, your first place, it wasn't valid because you had a draft on the straight. For the entire first stint, I was just flat out pushing, trying to beat my qualifying lap. That ended with me kissing the wall in the end of the first sector. And after that, I thought Anthony Kelly had it in the bag. I was like, with this damage, I'm not catching up to it. So I was like, you know what? I'll just change tires. Second place is a good finish. I come out of the pits. Anthony Kelly's like 4 seconds down the road or behind me, and now we have Josh in front of me. And I'm like, huh? What happened? So at that point, I assumed that he didn't take tires. And I was like, maybe I can pull this off. So I started fighting for that win.
So what is the lesson learned today, Jace?
Maybe take it a bit more easy when you have a couple seconds lead.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do qualifying laps during qualifying.
Yeah, I heard don't listen to your friends. Well, JC, despite your the devil on your shoulder guiding you in places you shouldn't have gone, fantastic job on managing the rest of the situation. Did you repair damage or did you just keep it on?
No, I didn't repair it. I just changed tires.
And how much was it? How much damage did you have?
I had 18 seconds.
Oh my goodness, that's not insignificant. So, well, congrats either way. Good job. And yeah, well, hopefully we'll see you guys next week. Kuja, any final words?
Yeah, very impressive to maintain that pace with 18 seconds of damage. Yeah, for sure thought it would have been less with the lap times you were setting. So yeah, very, very impressive.
All right. Go ahead,
um,
Jace.
At least with the Lamborghini, I'm not opposed to having a bit more understeer with that car. So it all worked out.
I see.
It was all at the front of the car, so it only affected me in the straights and that one long right-hander at the end of the lap.
Adam Strange coming in with some encouraging words. Well, Jace, Josh, thank you so much. Congratulations. Good job on your podium spots and the win for you, Jace, despite your friends trying to guide you otherwise. With that, we are going to close out the stream here today. Kuja, despite the low numbers of cars on track, still a pretty exciting race here at COTA.
Yeah, that was awesome to watch from start to end. Good battles from, through the whole 50 minutes. And even in qualifying, we saw some pretty close lap times between all the drivers. So it was good to see that it carried over into the race. Different strategies playing out for different folks. Yeah, that race had a bit of everything, really.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Hopefully everybody at home enjoyed it as well. For now, we're going to close off the stream. The next stream is going to be tomorrow. We're going to be coming back with our iRacing League at Road Atlanta, my favorite track of all time. I'm super excited about it. And we'll see you tomorrow. This is Eric Ocasian and Kuja Terekov here at Trackalicious. Wherever you are, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night. And we'll see you soon. We'll be rating Billy here, who's I think looks like new to ACC. So go show him some love and support and tell him how awesome Trackalicious is. See you next time. Bye, guys.